The economic survey is out, and to talk more on that, I have the Federal's editor-in-chief, Mr. Srinivasan S, with me. Thank you for joining, sir. My first question is, actually, let's talk about GDP growth and ground reality. So the economic survey projects a 6.3 to 6.8% growth for the financial year 2026. So private investment remains sluggish and rural demand is still recovering. So what will actually drive growth? Public spending or private sector revival, or just a statistical optimism?
Well, this is true that the GDP has slowed down. The GDP growth figures for the first quarter of the financial year 24-25 was about 6.7. The second half, it actually dipped. Q2 was pretty bad. It came down to about, I think, 5.7%, which was a bit of a setback. On an average, first half of this financial year, the growth rate is only 6. If they are saying that we are going to cross 6.3 to 6.4, which means more growth must come in Q3 and Q4. So probably they'll expect that some of the spending which didn't happen in Q1 and Q2 will happen in Q2 and Q3 and Q4. Now, the reasons given here is that the spending, capex spending could not happen. It actually dipped by nearly 12% in the first quarter, first quarter, and that's the impact which was seen in the second quarter, is because of elections, and the government spending overall has come down. So that's cited as one reason. But the second reason is also that the consumption hasn't gone up. So which means 60% of the GDP is made of what people consume. When people are not buying because probably they don't have the confidence, they don't have the disposable income. So obviously the expectation is from the finance minister that she would give some kind of relief to the middle class, which basically would increase, put some more money in their pocket so that they can spend more. Because the best way to improve the economy is spending. So whether she does that is a question wide open, whether she actually does it. But then there are others who are saying that, look, there are economists who are coming to the conclusion that, look, the problem is not just cyclical, because the economy goes and works in various cycles. So even Anant Nageshwaran somewhere says that there are structural changes which need to be made, which means a tacit admission that there's something more seriously wrong in the economy and some structural adjustment had to be made. And that's a question we have to see whether tomorrow the finance minister answers in her budget, whether this budget is going to be, as usual, or, work as usual, or is going to be something different. That's what we have to wait and see.
Okay. So with global trade slowing, how realistic is India's export growth strategy? Should we shift focus more, aggressively to domestic consumption?
Yeah, it is true that, but especially after the arrival of Trump, the entire global trade is going to go in a turmoil. There are also expectations that after he is announcing huge tariffs against China and Europe, and even against countries like India, saying that, if we do something like BRICS, we have our own currency, we try to put a currency which is opposed to dollar, he will take punitive action. All kinds of statements Trump is making, and this has caused a certain consternation. And there are worries that, okay, if there is a trade war which really breaks out between, say, China and US or other countries, so two kinds of things will happen. People may avoid, trading with America is not that, then you have to look for new avenues. For instance, other partners will start trading among themselves more frequently. That's one possibility. In any case, Indian economy is not that much export-led, but we certainly need exports to earn foreign exchange to fund our own imports. Now, we have been pretty lucky last couple of years because the oil prices are really low, and that's a very lucky thing for us. Therefore, we could manage our imports. If this continues, if there is a sudden change which happens, then certainly it will cause us problem. So, what is the way? So, they have to look for alternate export markets. I need not solely, look at America. Also, look at what kind of bilateral agreements or deals. That's the word. Deal we can strike with Trump. That depends on our diplomacy, how much they're able to do. And the third is to kickstart or to improve our own economy by doing certain things. Because most of the, if the domestic things picks up, the economy will do well. So these are the things which the budget may have to give answers to.
The economic survey also highlights the government's push for fiscal discipline. So does this indicate a tightening of developmental programs?
One remarkable thing which finance minister has managed over the years is to keep the fiscal deficit under control. And she has been on target. So this year, probably the fiscal deficit may end up around 4.8% or some such thing. So which is basically to take it to the ultimate target of 4.5. So I don't think there is much concern on fiscal consolidation, which the government will continue to do. And again, your question whether what kind of cuts it may impose on the economy. So I think the more targeted thing will happen, probably more on subsidies, which has been happening. Last year also there was a heavy cut in subsidy. Maybe those kind of things they would. But what is the real thing is that a lot of election-related freebies we have seen. Though this government itself has been talking, Prime Minister famously said he hates the revenue culture. But look at what has happened even in Delhi elections. Increasingly, all governments, in central and state governments, are spending more and more on, if you may call it freebie, you may call it welfare scheme, you may call it by any name, spending more by doing some are direct transfers, some may be called as outright bribes. And these are election-related stuff. And the budget has to somewhere, strike a note of caution and say that we need to put an end to that. And that's what I think middle class will also be looking at, because a lot of taxes come from them. So it's another crucial question. We'll have to wait and see how the budget does on that.
My last question is, the economic survey also predicts about India becoming a GCC hub. So how feasible is it, considering AI making several functionalities redundant, and will GCCs actually fall prey to AI?
Yeah, like I said earlier, what is AI? In what way it could affect us? I said the jobs which are repetitive in nature or rote kind of thing. I mean, those kind of jobs will be taken away from AI. But AI is still an evolving technology. Now, there are talks that AI can actually start thinking on its own. That stage is also coming soon. But it's not just it does what is in its memory. It can actually can be creative on its own. Those kinds of things are also expected. How far we go, we don't know yet, because as I said, it's an evolving one. But what is GCC? It's global, it's a pretty awkward name, Global Capacity Centers. It's actually includes everything. So they have given an omnibus name to many things. It could be IT services, ITES, SaaS, whole lot of things is packed into that. So the idea is that we emerge as the back office of the world. If China has become the manufacturing or the factory of the world, we become the back office of the world. That is the target. I think it's immensely possible, because not everything is going to be taken away by AI. There are still possibilities where we can score on this. Certainly, already like call centers, which came earlier, they are being replaced by bots. I mean, you must have yourself heard that most of the telephone calls, even the EC is using, banks, they all begin to use bots. But GCC is something different. And there are studies to suggest that if actually India gets the GCC game right, we could do something very good. And I expect the finance minister would pay attention and do some kind of, if not relief, some kind of measures in the budget to further boost this sector. That's what I expect.